after the vice president, the next officials in line would be President Pro Tem. Listen to this number now. That's the officer of the Senate, 1792. The senator would become the president. And then the Speaker of the House would become vice president. However, the Presidential Succession Act of 1947 changed that and reversed it around. A little bit of, I taught a class on the Federal Reserve also. Did you know that it wasn't until 1923, you know, the House of Representatives had a budget committee, they had budget committees. The Senate didn't have a budget committee until the 1920s.
Oh.
Did you know that? A little bit of, I'll give you a lot of these little bit of tidbits about history and about the government. Just, that's off on the side, anyway. The House of Representatives has only elected a president on 2 occasions, 1801 and 1825. In 2000, everyone believed it went to the House of Representatives, but what they did is they bucked it right up to the Supreme Court. They just said, well, we're not going to deal with this. You know, they went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court looked at all the information, they took all the counts and all the chads and everything, and then they made the decision. Now, this was a lot of, now back between the primaries and the general election, what if a candidate dies before the general election? Same thing happened here in Washington County. We had a person who dropped out before the election. Basically, the parties select another candidate. It could be his running mate, could be but that's how they do that. And the vice president not necessarily assumes that position because it could be somebody else. As I said, it's very similar to the process Washington County went through. What if a president dies before being sworn into office? Again, if a candidate dies after December 15th but before January 6th, Congress decides, they look at the electoral votes. If they're valid, then the laws of Presidential Succession Act kick in, and the candidate's running mate becomes president, and then the Speaker of the House, and then the Senate. Originally, you see this at 12th, originally, if not, then the 12th Amendment, we talked about that. The 20th Amendment states that the President-elect dies before the middle term. The President-elect, that's the actual, the amendments to the Constitution. So, and then I was asked, what about the succession? After there's President, Vice President, Speaker of the House, we know that, and then the President or the Pro Tem of the Senate moves up. What about the rest of them? Well, here they are, just for your information. Then there's the Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, and the remaining cabinet secretaries. That's how it goes. And that's in the Presidential Succession Act of 1947, Harry Truman developed that. It's only kicked in, I think this really happened after President Nixon resigned, before he became Vice President and moved up. So, and then when President Reagan was shot, he was out of duties. Then they moved up. Remember, there was that whole flack about General, what's his name? Haig. Said he was Secretary of State, he became President. He assumed it because he had a right to do that, but it wasn't the succession act. Believe it or not, under George W. Bush, when he would go in, I'm going to say something that's going to sound funny, but again, following politics in D.C., when he would go to Walter Reed for his physical, and he would go for a colonoscopy, and they'd knock him out for 4 hours, he actually signed a memo, and the Presidential Succession Act was enforced for those 4 hours, believe it or not. So Dick Cheney was actually acting president if something happened.
Good enough, because then it could happen.
Most people don't. You think, well, but yeah. So the 25th Amendment of 1967. Here's the actual people, and it goes all the way down to Homeland Security with Jay Johnson. So they actually see the position, and you actually see the names. So you see how it works. It really does work. Lots of times when you hear these things or read these things in the media about all this, it's trying to generate emotions, sell papers, and advertising on radio and TV. But a lot of it is just emotionally driven. we have a very solid, rock solid process for running our government. If it's followed. If it's followed, that's the key, if it's followed. And so this is, you can see, people. We're running over, but I just want to get, got a few more slides. I want to share these with you. Now, here's the 2008 Electoral College map. So, my pointer doesn't work, but I just want to point out a couple of states. Look at Washington State, Texas with 34, Florida with 27, excuse me, Pennsylvania with 21, Ohio with 20. And so, what happened between 2008 and 2012? What changed? No, what changed? What occurred between 2008 and 2012?
Census.
What?
Census.
Very good, yeah. Census. So let's look at what happened. Right there, you see what's happened? We're starting to see a change in demographics and how people are moving. Look at you see a lot of the states here, I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that, it makes it darker, but you see the yellow states, they're losing electoral votes. The blue states are gaining. So again, the point I'm making with this people pushing the national popular vote, you know, California didn't gain any, and the places where they thought that they were to be gaining population, again, it's emotion. They want to get people fired up. The Electoral College, blame it on the Electoral College. You know, New York, you see that, they're losing people. And they're going south, and you're starting to see a shift. I'll get on my soapbox again. You know, you think about this, they say it's the Electoral College was the reason somebody lost an election. Well, when you get up there and you insult more than half of the population of the United States and call people names, they're not going to vote for you. You know, you think about this, one person went out, they were out there campaigning, did 100 fundraisers with multi-million-dollar people, had one news conference in a year. That news conference was the questions were already, you know, cleared beforehand. But then you take the other side, the other person was out there, he was campaigning every day, he would he would stop in 3 or 4 states every day. And he had rallies in three or four times a week, and he listened to the people. Who won? It wasn't the Electoral College's fault. When you call people deplorables and irredeemable, you know, what do you expect? I mean, and this whole thing, I'm going to get on, you know, Russia, you know, that's bogus. It's more bogus. You know, if you look at the New York Times, you want to call it instead of that, they said unnamed sources in the CIA. Challenge someone when they say, well, who was it? If they have a fact or figure, challenge the person who's making that. Well, give me an example. What did they actually say? Because, you know, that's why Greenspan said to me, stay away from the media because they'll take your words and turn it around. Bob Woodward was coming into the building. I was just coming out of a meeting with him one time, and he said, hi, Bob. I said, hi, how are you? And I kept walking, and he was really upset because he wanted to talk to me. He was writing a book about the maestro, the great maestro, and he wanted to have more information about it. I just walked across the street. I can tell you a lot of other things too. It was fun working in D.C. But anyway. So you see what's happening. I got off the topic, but you get the sense. Now, I could share with you more slides, and I did this in some of my talks back in D.C. from 2000, 2004, and just show this, you know, in county levels. If you look at it from the standpoint where our country's going, no matter what you hear in the media, you think, gee, our country's lost, right? You think, wait a minute, our values are going out the window. You get all these, you listen to this. Well, the next slide, look at this. What does that tell you? What does that say? Look at the blue. You know, you think about this, I bring this up for a couple of reasons. If we did go to a district method, think about how that would play out. It might push the votes down. It wouldn't have all these big numbers again. You'd be able to, if someone said, well, I think I got cheated in one area, you could go to that state, that district, and go into that. for example, Wisconsin, they just spent multi-million dollars up there for recounting. The opponent won one vote. Trump, I'll say Clinton got one vote. Trump had something like 400 or 600 additional votes. So think about that. If we start recounting, he's going to get more. That's personally, I think. My wife and I were election judges back in Maryland for 12 years. There were several elections. And I think that if you see this, I think we had some experience with it, and the way that we allocate votes, I think it would be better in a district method, because we lived in a county that was all blue. We were the only two Republicans in the state, basically.
Oh my goodness, what
And
lovely.
so we were like, they would call us all over the state, and say, do you want to come over here, over the Eastern Shore, in Western Maryland? But we stayed in Montgomery County, but it was really interesting. And we were in that blue area, right up here, right there. Look at that solid blue. But the point of this, if you think about it, people are again talking about a national popular vote. Again, it's a false narrative. If you look at the numbers, look at this, and you can go out and find this. I'm not making this up. Look at our nation. Our nation is not, it doesn't support a national popular vote. Again, it's an excuse. If you look at the total numbers of votes, it's not, it's not a good way to go about it. And we're talking about that, and we talk about deplorables and irredeemables. I've heard some things that they said, we also need a national popular vote, because today, the illiteracy rate in the United States is like 98%. Right?
No.
Well, this is what I read, and I also heard I heard somebody on a radio show talking about it, and they were parroting the same stuff. That's why I brought Federalist 39 with me. I want to read something to you. As I said, most of the people came from England and Europe, and they were very religious because they wanted religious freedom. They read their Bibles. They could read. They could write. The majority of people back then could read and write. They weren't college educated. You get the people today who think, well, I'm not college educated. I'm something, But think about it. Here's Madison writing in 1788. He said, let me read this to you. Talks about, he's talking about, the first question that offers itself is whether the general form or aspect of government is strictly Republican. It is evident that no other form would be reconcilable with the genius of the people of America, with the fundamental principles of the Revolution, right? Or with the honorable determination which animates every votary of freedom to rest all our political experience on the capacity of mankind for self-government. Votary. Think about this. This man used this term in 1788. Votary is a person bound by vows to live a life of religious or worship service. They read their Bible. They read. So this whole stuff is elitisms. They're saying this stuff that people are stupid, that they couldn't vote for, the people back then. Again, it's just, it's a false narrative. It really is. I get so angry when I hear that kind of stuff. So I've got them. I'll just share those with you. So, any questions about this? Is this enlightening? I mean, I've got a bunch of others, but I thought
Alexis de Tocqueville, his observation of the literacy of the American people.
Well, Alexis de
How
Tocqueville.
aware.
Yeah. I don't know if you've read Democracy in America, but Alexis de Tocqueville came to the United States in the 1830s. He was about a 30-year-old French college-educated guy to come here. He was going to study our prison structure, how we treated our prisons. We didn't chop people's heads off like they were doing over in France. So he came over here and got so enamored with our way, our process, and our form of government, he stayed here for 2 years. And he was so surprised at how smart people were and so engaged in government and could read. And he wrote, if we had more time, I have a video I'd like to, it's like a 5-minute video about the four legs of a stool, and how he felt that the separation of government, how our government was set up was perfect. And he went back and he wrote this, a 30-year-old, he wrote 2 or 3 volumes of it. If you ever get a chance to read some of it, read it. Democracy in America. It was just, it's a great book. Any other questions? I'm open. Okay. So and again, I want to let's summarize some of this. In step 1, each parties, we talked about that. Electors are pledged. Electors choose their political parties. We have, and again, in Arkansas, we have 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans pledged to their candidates. November, again, the general election happens. They vote for, they go out and vote for their electors. The results dictate the party's electors who they vote for. All electors for a candidate wins. Winner takes all system. If the Republicans win, the Republican electors are called into service. If the Democrats win, they're called into service. Did you know that even back when the Republic was first started, they didn't want the electors to come together? They said they would only meet in their state capitals. Do you know why? They were afraid of collusion, and they would be swayed. They could sway the votes. And that's why they don't meet as a national body today. I'll show you the certificates. They send those from the state capitals to NARA, to the archivists, and then they distribute it. It's really kind of nice. It's a great way to do it. Presidential elections, again, they meet in state capitals, 41 days following the general election. And again, this is to avoid collusion and cheating. In January, the Congress convenes, opens the ballots received from each state, tallies all, and announces the official outcome. I wanted to share with you, there's one, they never meet as a national body. This was, I got this, I pulled this off the internet. This is an actual certificate from Arkansas for 2008, because I think 2008 went for McCain. So this actually shows that this is a certificate with the signatures of all the electors. Now I want to get into some of this. Step 3, how's it work? Electors. Now we're going to do this briefly. We're going beyond an hour, but I think this is interesting. If you would think it is, I'll continue. 26 states have laws in the books that says electors must vote for their party's candidate. You can't deviate. You can't. If you do, you go to jail or you get fined. We probably will go to jail. And if you look at this, you look at the states. Here's 26 of them. Washington, if you look at the state of Washington, I got to tell you a story. Who read it? Has anyone read or heard about the electorate in Washington State saying she wasn't going to vote for President-elect Trump? 19-year-old Democratic elector, right? She's a Democrat. She's a Democratic elector. The state went Democrat. She said she's not going to vote for the Republican candidate. Now think about that. She doesn't even know basics, and she's got the job as a 19-year-old elector, right?
Yeah.
How did she get that, right? But the best part is, the media goes out and touts it. Here's another elector who's not going to vote for Donald Trump. What? Come on. You think about the media. I have to say this also. I get a lot of energy about this. My friend who lives in Georgetown, he's addicted to CNN. So we're back there for General Ramsey's interment in Arlington National Cemetery.
It's very entertaining.
I'm sorry?
It's very entertaining.
Yeah, and so after the ceremony, we went back to his house, and they were there. I'm watching CNN, and this woman who, what's her name? I'm not going to mention her name, but she interviewed me back in D.C., and the reason she was interviewed me, I rode my bicycle across the United States in 2007 for wounded veterans. Raised a lot of money for Fisher House, one of my favorite foundations, by the way, because I was a wounded veteran, and I was very lucky, so I wanted to give back. She was on there, she was leading this group, and it was around noon, and there was like all these people from CNN sitting there talking about all this, and they said, do you know Donald Trump wants to have term limits for Congress? He's so stupid, Congress already has term limits. I'm going, and they said this on national television. Think about that. Think about this. This is our media.
Fake news.
Huh? Fake news, right. And that's the kind of stuff that just it just makes my blood boil. These people are supposed to be, and it's like, anyway. So, having said this, now that's 26 states. Let's look at the 24 that don't have laws, right? Look at number 2.
Arkansas.
Arkansas, right? So I think we should start partitioning the folks and say, okay, let's get some, you know, we can do this. We can do this. When I become governor, I'll do this for us.
Okay.
All right? When I become governor.
I vote for you.
Okay. I'm sorry?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What about the guy from Texas, the
I'm
Republican?
gonna, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna bring that up. It's perfect. It's a great segue into that. Texas, they don't have a law. But he said in an interview, I was reading the transcript of his interview, he said, oh, I'm legally, I signed a document. He might have signed a document in his party, but I can guarantee you the guy is persona non grata for the rest of his political career. Because I can bet you a large Dunkin' Donuts that there's 10 people standing in line to take his place.
Yeah.
The idiot just said, oh, and he's gone. And he's ruined his political career in the Republican Party for the rest of his life. So they can say that stuff and the media comes out and says, well, he's not going to vote for him. Well, there's 10 people to take his place. And nothing's going to happen to him. So he might not have to be, he won't go to jail, but I can guarantee you the Republican Party in Texas will take care of him. I'll guarantee it. I'll guarantee it. So the guy in Texas, again, it's just, you know, it's somebody who's trying to make a political point for whatever reason. You know,
So
you
even
have
if
those.
all 26 states changed and voted for, I don't know, whoever, Kasich or whoever, that wouldn't change the outcome of the election?
No, because they have, again, if you look at the Electoral College count, Donald Trump was, I think he's up to 307, 310, something like that. That's a lot more than 26 or 24. It's like 37 or 38. They'll never do it. They'd never do it. And if they did, all those people, think about it, how many people would step in line and say, wait a minute, that's not valid.
Right.
You know, it's just, again, think about this false narrative. It just, you know, there'd be such an uprising of the population. Say, wait a minute, just take them out and tar and feather it.
Do they still do that?
Huh? Yeah. Well, maybe they should, you know, if somebody did that, you know, but, you know, it's that kind of stuff, you know. And we're so wrapped up in our daily lives, we don't have really time to look at that. You know, you go grocery shopping, laundry, car problems, children going to school, you know, balancing your checkbook, doing homework. You know, you don't have time to, you know, and the media knows that. And the other side is very sharp. They know how to manage the message. You know, they get that emotion going. So I'm glad you asked that question. It was just because let's look at this guy in 5 years, in 2 years. I bet you he has nothing to do with politics. So that's called, there's a faithless elector. They're called faithless electors. And because we've had several of those across the history of the United States, in 240 years, we've had 158 occasions of faithless electors. I broke this down for you just so you can see this. 71 votes were changed because the elector died or was unable to cast a vote for whatever reason. Fell off the horse, was in an automobile accident, or died. 2 cast their votes, were not able to cast their votes, and abstained from voting. The remaining 85 changed their votes, personal interest, or perhaps by accident. And you know, it could have been something they made a mistake. But if you look and do some research, go back at those electors, they were finished. They were finished. You know, and a faithless elector runs a greater risk of party censure than government action in those states that don't have legal requirements. So, I didn't make this up. This is history. You can go to that. Now, yes, sir.
I assume they didn't change the outcome of the
Oh, that's the other thing. None of those ever changed the outcome of the election. Again, it's just because someone else took their place. They had somebody, right? Because think about it. If you had those electors there, it's succession. Think about it. You know, it's just like we did here in Washington County. We had somebody drop out, somebody came back in. How many people would want to be an elector? Raise your hand. I would. Would you? I mean, it's kind of full. I mean, even if it's procedural, or, you know, if it's just for, you know, ceremony, I'd still want to be part of it. I took my daughter when she was 16 to one of the, I shouldn't tell you this, but I did. My wife, we only had 2 tickets. I took my daughter to one of the presidential balls in Washington, D.C., just so she could be there and she could see it. We went from, there was like 4 of them. We went to all of them. She met the president-elect, the president, the vice president, the families, and she still has a dress. She was 16. So, you know, it's those kind of things. You know, it's just, we have a great system. Anyway.
Good for you.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Good for you.
So again, faithless electors, let's look at it. And what I did, I didn't go through and do all 158. I just did up to I went back to 1948 to show you who they were. 2004, 2002, or 2000. Now, you know, Al Gore could say he lost the popular election. He would have lost because of electoral votes, because Barbara Simmons, she was a District of Columbia person. She didn't vote. She abstained because she said, we want to become a state. We're in taxation without representation. We're taxed. We don't have representatives and all that. So she abstained. She worked for city government. She was okay in her job, but she never played anything else in politics in the D.C. government after that, because I worked there. I was there at the time. I wasn't working in government, but I followed that because I thought, what's going to happen? But you can see, you know, just some of the electors, who they didn't vote for, why, some of the reasons. Let's see. What I did was another aspect of the national process. I came up with this because I figured, it was a great handout. I also had a lot of other stuff from my classes, but we had to try to compress this in this time frame. This is my little 7-step process. This is your elevator speak. If you want to go out to someone and talk with them in an elevator, or, you know, if you're walking around, you know, you can take this with you and say, here's the process. 1, state primaries. 2, each party nominates top. 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So that's your little pocket. You can take that with you. Pull that out if you want, you know? But what I've done since then, just for this, I sat down and said, okay, I'll be a little more thorough. Let's actually look at today's, what's going to happen from the primaries up to the president, you know, let's look at that. So here's November 8th, election day, that happened, mid-November through December 19th. After the election, governor prepares 7 certificates, right? Each state, this is what's actually going to happen. Sends 1 certificate to the archivist, National Archives. That's for public record. 6 certificates are held for use at the meeting of electors in December. December 13th, states make their final decisions, and any controversies. Remember we talked about that. The people who say, I'm not voting for, you know, this person or that person, they're out, that's fixed, right? That's fixed.
Tomorrow.
So you see, this actually happens.
12th, right? So
Huh?
by tomorrow, the naysayers are going to be dealt with.
Yeah. So this is an this is so electoral votes will be presumed valid when they're presented to Congress, right? They have to follow it's a popular vote in each state. You know, you've gone against the will of the people. These people, that's a discrepancy. They're thrown out. Somebody else comes in and votes for them. They take their scratch name out and erase it and put somebody else in there. December 19th, the electors sign, seal, and certify those 6 sets of electors' votes. They are distributed immediately to key areas, the President, the Senate, Vice President, 2 packages to the Secretary of State in the state where their electors meet, here in Arkansas, 2 packages to the Archivist of NARA, National Archives and Records Administration, the chief record keeper of the United States government. December 28th, electoral votes must be received by the President of the Senate and the Archivist. On or before January 3rd, 2017, the Archivist meets with the Secretary of the Senate and the Clerk of the House in late December or early January. This is in part ceremonial occasion. This is based upon my 36 years in D.C. This is really a kind of, it's ceremonial, it's kind of fun. They've already had, you know, meetings. I used to take my staff over to the Senate office buildings, the Senate office, the cafeteria, they had undergrounds, where they had silver, real china for people who were either leaving or if I would promote them, I'd take them over there, you'd see all this. You'd see the ceremonial was going through, some of that. So I was able to take staff to those different things back then. So it's really kind of fun. We have a great process. I got a lot of energy for this. In January 6th, Congress meets joint session to count the electoral votes and formally declare the new President of the United States and Vice President. January 20th, at noon, is the swearing in and inauguration day. The President-elect takes the oath of office to become President of the United States. And we can clap and say, yay, at that day, right? So that's if you look at that, I'm giving you, my little 7-step primer. You can take that with you. But here's what's actually going to happen. And the process, some of it's ceremonial, but I think we should keep that. You don't hear about that, but it's this pomp and ceremony that goes with our nation. It's a great process.
Yes.
We have the greatest experiment. It's the greatest experience in humankind. I could go into some of my talks and talk about it. It is. Our founders came up with the best system of governance since the beginning of time. It really is. It's the greatest. And people are trying to, you think about it, it's been tweaked through amendments, but it's still the best process. Why do people want to come here in droves to come to live our American dream? And we also have people in the United States trying to tear our American dream apart. When I took an oath of office, I took an oath as an officer in the United States military to defend the United States Constitution. We need more of that.
What do you think is taking place in the high schools and on the college campus regarding these processes?
Well, I think a lot of people who are in academia, they go and get their PhDs. They've never worked. They've never done a day, and they haven't. And again, I'll get on it. This is off the topic. Throughout my career, I always tried to bring in students, undergraduate students, grad students, or PhD candidates, or postdocs to work with us so they could get experience. And I was a computer scientist. I did a lot of, I did big national and international systems, big organizations. So they saw that. They saw how budgets were developed. They saw how computer systems were developed, through user group meetings and things like that. So they get some experience because a lot of them are going to go become researchers or teach. Because they go right from school to school to school, and then they go into a university environment, and they teach. That's it. That's all they know. And I think that there is a lot of people, I think people, if you look at that one map, you see the country is not as bad as we think it is. I think there's a lot of universities out there that are teaching good things. Our daughter went to a university in North Carolina. I'm going to plug into it. They teach very good basic moral and religious values. It's High Point University. The guy came here, he was the president of the university. He had $56 in his pocket. He was foreign born, became a citizen, went there when it was High Point College, and got his undergraduate degree, went on, got a master's degree, went off somewhere, got a PhD. Became a multi-millionaire he started a bread company. And he gave money back to High Point College, and then it became a university. And so about 10, 15 years ago, the president left, retired, and the board wanted him to come and become president. And he does some things there that are phenomenal. Every student has to take the president's, and this is just one university, I knew personally. They have to take the president's seminar, which is a class, and it's a 1-credit class. And at the end of that class, he's a motivational speaker. He talks to the students what to do, and he goes around to each student, gives them a brand new minute $1 bill. He goes to Federal Reserve, the Bank of Richmond, gets a brand new minute dollar. Gives it to every student in the class and says, take this and make it grow for you, and become successful and live the American dream. Because he did.
I'm glad to hear that there are some colleges that are not bashing America, because let me tell you, I've been taking classes over at the university, and every single class, no matter what the subject is, the instructor doesn't waste a second on trying to bash America in every way, shape, and possible. How can we stop that kind of thing? Why is that going on? People from all over the world are coming to this university, and they are taking every opportunity to run America in the ground.
Well, I think that will change. I think it's going to change because it's going to have to change because I think we're seeing, I believe, this is just me, and I'm just like you all. I believe we're starting to see a tidal change across the entire world. You know, we see the globalists pushing their agenda. And I shouldn't talk about this, but I will. When I first started hearing about it, it was back in 1989, about 1989. I heard a talk by a president, talked about 1,000 points of light and a new world order. And I thought, what does this mean? And the person was only a one-term president. That started us down that road. Then look, we had a president who came in with only 39% of the popular vote. He was not a majority president. He was a two-term president, though, and what did he do? He and his wife continued to bring that, it caused a lot of problems. I think that we need somebody, spending 7 years in the Army, fighting, I was going to do 2 tours in Vietnam. The second tour was, I was blown up by a rocket. That's why I said I was a wounded veteran. But I love this military. We've got military men now, 4-star generals. The only problem is they're all Marines. Although we have, was it Flynn? He's a 3-star general. He's an Army general. He's National Security Advisor. But you've got people in there, and they're no BS. It's rules, regulations, procedures. There's a certain amount of that you don't run an Army or a Marine Corps, just willy-nilly. So I think we're starting to see a change. And you hear these, I'm listening to some of these supposedly conservative talk show people. One of them, he just mounts off a lot. He's complaining about all these picks. I'd rather have that. Rather have somebody who was out there commanding 4 or 5 divisions or 100,000, young men and women than I would somebody come out of the university or academia.
Thank you.
Right.
Huh?
3 minutes left.
Oh, okay.
On the camera.
Oh. All right, so that, I can go on. I really do. I'm really big on the United States. I think we've got a lot of opportunities. I think Trump, and this is my own personal opinion, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
I think we need to be cautious.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. Yes.
I'm cautiously optimistic about Washington County, here in Washington County. We moved here because we were going to move up around Centerton. But my wife didn't want to be back up there and being around corporate, political, like back in D.C. because, it was a constant grind, keeping up with the Joneses. So we moved here for a reason. So I'm hoping that we have some change in the local government because I think we need to. This county it's a diamond. It's not even a diamond in the rough. It's a diamond. It needs to be polished. It hasn't been polished in some time. It needs to be polished and shine because we've got so much going for us. It's a university town. They say, well, they compare us to Austin. Well, there's a lot. We need a broader base. We need to bring industry and some other technology companies in and make us in Austin. But I'm big on it. I just think that that's why I've gone to the Quorum Court. I've gone to the Quorum Court last year to follow the budget process. They know me now by name because I speak up all the time. Yeah. When I'm not
Thursday
there,
night.
Yeah, when I'm not there, I made a public statement. I read a public statement on the what was it? The Children's Parental Act. They're trying to fund it through other ways, and I said, here's the way to do it. And they cut me off because the judge cut me off. She said I was over 3 minutes, so it's just 3.5 minutes. I only had 2 more sentences to go to say how I was going to finish it. But I think we have a lot of processes in in the county that can be enhanced and streamlined. Because I just go there and I think about, I run an international IT shop. And, and the judge said to me one day, she goes, county government's really, it's difficult and it's complex. I'm going, really? Try running $1 billion international IT shop where you have to report every month or you lose your job to a board of governors. Every month I had to report to, a board. And I had to lay out my financials and I discuss my P&L.
I spoke against that, that
But
lead.
and again, we can debate this, but I don't think it's a bad thing. But I think the way the county's going about it, they're trying to fund, there's ways of funding it. And I gave my talk to the young man, Daniel Bowles, to use that. Here's, do your alternatives. What's your alternatives? Cost benefit. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've noticed in Arkansas, and I'm new here too, I just moved here this last year.
Good for you.
The state is very red on the top. All the congressmen and the state senate and the state representatives. But I'm not sure how red it is when you get down to the county judges and the school boards and the
Let's
city
finish
council.
this after the video ends here, finish this question. Thank you very much, Bob, really appreciate it.
You're welcome.